Beyond 3D. Welcome back to Beyond 3D this week, Matt.
Oh,
that's a big sigh.
Yeah, it's been interesting. My mind is still downloading the information that we've gotten from the morning. But wow, I'm just amazed at all the different things that have been going on in the world today, including what I see on the news right now, which is driving me nuts.
Oh, look, that's a narrative that's been well scripted.
Quite well scripted. Again and again and again and again. And quite frankly, I'm sick of it. Come up with something new. No, I better not say that because they will. Welcome back to Beyond 3D. Matt and Clint here with you, and I think I'd ask a question right now to Clint. So Clint, this week, what have you been up to? What have you been looking at?
Begins with the letter C.
Oh no!
And it ends
CERN.
with CERN. Yeah, CERN. I've been looking at CERN. I know last week when I talked to you about it, I did say who owns CERN and who pays the bills and all that. So I did a bit of digging this week.
Okay.
It's called the European Council for Nuclear Research.
Okay.
So we're talking a European Union of
university kind of things, and
no, more so a European Union of countries.
Right.
So head of each country sits at this council for the Hadron Collider, and they all chip in a certain dollar amount, and it all gets monitored like that. But we are talking about the world's largest and most powerful particle collider, and it's also the largest, most complex experimental facility ever built.
Correct.
And
all underground,
and the largest single machine in the world. So, from what I know, there's 10,000 scientists that work there.
Wow.
It's meant to produce what they call 6.5 to 7 Tesla electron volts, and as it's shooting its particles through the collider. I'll say that again: 6.5 to 7 Tesla electron volts. They're currently pushing it to 40 to 42, and the aim is to push it all the way to 1,000 Tesla electron volts. Now, what this does is it creates a fluid laser that circles. So think of a circle laser that goes around and around through the particle collider. And as this single laser is created, it creates what's called a macro singularity. And with this macro singularity, it allegedly opens a portal. That's the idea behind it.
Right.
So it's hidden under the guise of finding the Higgs boson particle, which they've already done. They've already done it. And now they're using it for other little experiments, which they've all done. They've pushed the particle collider above and beyond what it was designed to do, and they've found that there is no stopping it at this point in time. So the actual collider itself, it's got checkpoints, like there are checkpoints called Bravo, Alice, and there's a Foxtrot one as well, from what I've been able to work out. And each one of these little checkpoints in CERN has obviously collates data as the particles are smashing through, but the entire facility is currently exceeding what it was designed to do on paper, and it's going above and beyond and doing other things. So I did a little bit of digging on CERN this week. I'm not going to touch back on CERN for a long time, I don't think, unless something radical happens.
Well, something radical could happen. You never know. They could open up a parallel universe or something.
But I have been looking at other things, like I've been looking at the Solanus virus this week, Matt, and other things like Lorentz force, just to name two things I'm just going to throw out there. People can look into those things themselves. So other little subjects have been piquing my interest. Besides CERN, hasn't all been about CERN this week, so I'm done with CERN for a little while.
For a little while? Okay,
yeah.
Well, for me it's been...
I was going to say, what about yourself?
DARPA. So they've been... good little boys and girls. They've been playing around with their toys and coming up with some new things, and I heard a couple of them. One of them was very, very interesting, and stuff, the usual stuff, the flying car.
Yep.
That we all want. The other thing that was very interesting was as far as military applications, and what any Star Trek fan will appreciate this. They want the military to be able to use the Z-axis. It's not just horizontal. They want that vertical, that Z-axis to be used.
Okay.
And so what they're doing now is they've come up with a material. I believe it is a gecko-type skin, and they can attach that to all your gloves and your knees and your hands, and that will allow you to access the Z-axis. So instead of having to worry about ropes and ladders and things like that, you can actually just put your hand on a wall like Spider-Man and you can just go on up. Now, they've tested a material already, and the material they tested, which was very interesting, they put it on a piece of glass, stuck it there, and suspended what would be I'll put it into kilograms for us down here, about 275 kilograms it can hold.
Okay. If they really want to impress me, they need to make these kind of booties out of this material and attach them to the feet of a Galapagos turtle and get it to walk up a building. You want to impress me, DARPA? Go for it.
Well, all of those kind of things are going on, so it's very, very interesting. I was looking at the net as well just to see what else is going on, and now what they're also talking about is 30 years into the future. Back to the Future was last in October and everything like that was the anniversary of that, 2015. Now they're looking at 2045.
The difference being, though, I would say when Back to the Future was written, technology wasn't at its peak speed in accelerating, matching, how do I say that, Matt? Technology speeds up faster than we can process it or use it.
There's a term.
I can't think of it.
I will come to me. I know that term. They use it with the computers and with the chips, and the fact that every 6 months or so, or every 18 months, I forget what it is, and the processing speed keeps getting, and eventually they're not going to be able to fit all of that onto silicon chips, so now they're looking at other materials that might be able to allow them to continue to go forward. They're talking about that going forward, but now they're looking at 2045 and what the world is going to look like 30 years from now, and the usual stuff. So what do we have? Interplanetary and interstellar travel.
I don't...
Yes or no? Let's do this as a yes or no.
I'll say yes, and I'll tell you why I say yes, because I strongly believe they already do it.
Good point, so do I. Now, permanent settlements on the Moon and Mars.
I strongly believe...
They already have them.
They already have them. And I know at barbecues I get bricks thrown at me for saying things like that, but it's just about educating yourself.
Absolutely. Now, that in transportation, energy, we're getting there, with Tesla self-driving vehicles, electric vehicles, all of that is coming up. Improved mass transit systems and intercontinental travel, flying cars and hoverboards, high-efficiency solar and other sustainable energy sources should come to the forefront.
I think food should be a priority. Food. But then again, they might have no plans to feed the billions of people that need it. So
they might want to wipe them out. You never know.
Agenda 21.
Quite frankly, yes. Okay, let's say health and medicine and neurological devices from memory augmentation. Pardon me, that word. Storage and transfer, perhaps reading people's thoughts. Not very nice.
No longer do you need a jury.
Yeah. Thought police. Here we go.
So pre-crime. We're talking pre-crime, aren't we?
What was that movie with Tom Cruise?
Minority Report.
There you go. Oh, lovely. Life extension, including virtual immortality by uploading brains into computers.
This doesn't sound too far-fetched, but let me just put this into a different perspective.
Right.
We already have that. It's called Facebook. But no, don't laugh. We already have that. It's called Facebook. My life... I'm not a massive Facebook user. I do know people that live on it day and night. Their whole life is already digitally recorded for prosperity. It's there for as long as Facebook operates. So they're already immortal. What they don't have digitally is their thoughts and... they might have their thoughts and feelings represented with like icons on a screen in written text that represents what they've been and done, but the actual essence of a person, being able to hold that digitally, I'll say no, not at this point.
Yeah, fair enough. What else do they have here? Star Trek style tricorders for home diagnostics and treatments, wearable technology, we're already there.
Can I say, I remember the first time going to my doctor and he pulled out an electrical device and stuck it in my ear and read my temperature. That was 10 years ago. Now, if they could do that 10 years ago, and then prior to that, those devices would have already been out on the market 5 years prior to me experiencing it.
Right.
I dare say that they've already got that technology, and it hasn't come into commercial play just yet. But it'll happen. If they can shoot a light into your ear and tell you the temperature, there's other things that should be able to happen.
Other things, exoskeletons. Augmented reality glasses. We've seen Google Glass.
I'll say yes to both.
Contact lenses that basically can have your computer screen up. All you have to do is click a button and all of a sudden everything comes up in front of your eyes. Interesting. Improved artificial intelligence, optical and quantum computing. That's what it was.
Yes.
Quantum computing.
Quantum
that was
computing.
It. Yeah. More secure internet. Yeah, right. Better use of data analytics to improve the use of resources.
I'm going to throw this out there and say sometime in the next 5 years, I don't want this to happen, but I would say sometime in the next 5 years, the world will experience its first EMP on a mass scale. And for those of you that don't know what an EMP is, it is an electrical magnetic pulse that can and does knock out all electrical services within a radius.
Your car will stop.
Everything will stop. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was used in a negative way. I can't see how it would ever be used in a positive way. But we will see that sometime happen in the next 5 years, and I don't want that to come true, but unfortunately that's the way the world is.
It's the way the world looks right now, and that's just... oh well, what can we do about it? But those are some of the little things that DARPA's looking into, along with some other things that we won't get into this week, but we might get into next week insofar as the technologies they're actually coming out with and the things that they're releasing. And you know, if they're releasing something now or talking about it now, it's been in the pipeline for a very long time.
And if you ever want to have a self-inflicted nightmare, please jump onto YouTube and look up DARPA's robotic hunter-killers.
Oh, that was insane.
That scares me. Robotic dogs that, we're not talking a head, we're talking just a torso and the legs, but like bulls, cows, but they're designed to hunt down people. And it runs across the terrain like a bull. With the speed of a greyhound. And if you got in its way, it would plow you over. It is a nightmare of a thing. I would hate that to be relentlessly tracking me and hunting me down, because you would not be able to... No.
Be over with.
Be over with. And they've got this stuff. They've got this stuff manufactured. They've got this stuff tested and ready to go.
And we did get into something a little bit earlier, and we're going to have to touch on it again, and that was the fact that the Obama administration, less than a week ago, signed into effect a law that would allow mining of asteroids, and they're not worried about countries or anything like that. So if you have the wherewithal, aka Elon Musk, and your own little SpaceX, you all of a sudden can be in the mining industry, and you can do it in such a way that can be quite lucrative, especially when it comes to certain metals that are basically controlled by one country now by the name of China.
These laws would not be getting passed unless it was already on the table and being planned to happen. There's no reason for these laws to be passed unless it was a possibility that it was going to happen.
Yeah, but if they're talking about things like the fact that we're going to be running out of resources on the planet, and you have these asteroids floating around up there, and you have the technology to be able to mine these things, companies are going to take advantage of it. What they've basically done is let government step out of the way and say, if the private sector decides they want to get up there and do these kinds of things, there you go. Go for it. It's a shame, but what are you going to do?
Can you say the name Weyland Yutani? It's the corporation's name out of the Alien trilogy. Weyland Yutani. So corporate corporations going into space. So
there we have it. So DARPA is having a little bit of fun. The White House is having a little bit more fun, and absolutely spectacular. But this is Beyond 3D. Matt and Clint with you. We will be back after this break.
Beyond 3D.
Everyone out there, welcome to this week's edition of Beyond 3D, and this is beyond a treat as far as we are concerned, right, Clint?
I'm sitting here with a smile on my face. If there was one person I could interview to my fantasy dinner, it would be at the head of the table, this gentleman right now.
Absolutely, positively. I'm just looking forward to this.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight on Beyond 3D, and it is with our esteemed pleasure to introduce Dr. Richard Allen Miller.
Dr. Miller. Dr. Miller, welcome to Beyond 3D.
My pleasure. And so here we are.
Dr. Miller, I would love to know, if we never get to speak again, what is the one thing you want us all to know about life right now?
We're at the end of times.
Yep.
It's happening. It's the end of an epoch, sixth. And there are things happening that are beyond preparation. Like, I do urban survival skill workshops with Matt Stein. We have these big gun shows over here, and I'm the gratuitous military SEAL, and Matt is my engineer with creepy technology, and we talk about how to bug in and bug out. And then I'm left with, what are the people, the 99% of us that don't have any money or resources to bug in or out? What are we going to do?
Nothing.
And so I'm building a thing called sustainable lifeboats with oars. That's a good metaphor. Like you can be in a boat, but while you're watching everything sink around you, but if you can't go anywhere, what's that all about? And the way I'm doing it is that I'm going to work with children because I'm too old. I'm not going to change this world. No way will I ever get there, from here. And with that said, the children, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, teach your children well. They're watching. This is how they learn how to be pedophiles and drug addicts and, activists.
Sorry, Dr. Miller, can I just say, in regards to that last comment you just made, are we talking about what is being programmed into them?
That's, we have that common core over here. This is creepiness where they had in the newspaper, let me give you an example, recently locally here, that they're going to get a second kind of educational thing going with special teachers, because 43% of the people here don't speak English as their primary language. And I remember when Putin got up in front of the United Nations and he said, if you want to come to Russia and be a Russian, you got to speak Russian. And he got a 5-minute standing ovation from every country in the world. Now, the United Nations is the New World Order. It is, in America, it supersedes with Agenda 21, it supersedes our democratic rights. And that includes to bear arms and freedom. How does that work? And so with that said, there's something wrong here in Guacamora. And whether or not our system has been invaded by something creepy or not, who knows? I know even at my pay grade, and I'm a GS-18, that means that right now at 72, I am equivalent to a 2-star general, civilian. I have that access, and in the military, Navy, intelligence. And I don't know, I know there's a good likelihood I'll never know at my pay grade. And that there's something else going on out here that has nothing to do with military and other kinds of things. It's about money. It's about oil. But there's something else going on. There's terraforming. And what's that about? It's like, if you want to know where an alien would hide in plain sight, where would that be? Well, I could suggest, for example, the 4th genome in your blood type, and the war for Earth is going on, metaphorically, on an archetypal level of encounter. Say, we don't even have a clue yet what we are, or what we can do. And when I trained SEALs, SEAL Unit 1, I put that together, and then I trained SEALs 2 and 3, those units, for what they do, what they think. Back when I did it, Navy SEALs didn't exist. It was a start of a legend. It was the beginning. It is a past, which is the primary wave in time. And when you realize the future has timelines, and the fact that we are now traveling in time, I can give you some examples with simple software. Jade 2.0 was for the Jade Helm experiments over here to see how active and accurate they could profile someone before you know yourself what you're going to do. How does that work? Minority Report. And so here we are at the end of days with a group of creeps that may or may not be human, with the 6 feet puck. And it's going to happen. Can't not happen. I'm a physicist. You can already see it happening. All the volcanoes and the wobbling of the earth. That's what the Hopi called the ritual of the wobble egg. And the axis is wobbling, and now we're starting to have perturbations because of who knows what. Planet 7X, Nibiru, whatever. I don't know. I have friends in JPL I have friends in NASA that are whistleblowers. They got me information. Lorraine Murray sent me some documents. She's cool. She sent me some documents about the military having a body count right now from Fukushima and its impact on fighter jets in terms of fatiguing weather, the aircraft itself, and the kinds of grommets and washers that are in between it. This ionizing radiation is playing havoc on aircraft. And as a result, I can give you a metaphor. I was flying out of Chicago 2 months ago, and halfway down the runway, taxiing, right engine caught on fire. And we had to evacuate and get to a different thing. They rerouted me instead of going into here. I went into there to get home, that kind of thing. And I was at customer service, and I said, "Is this happening?" She said, "Far more frequently, because the ionizing radiation from Fukushima is now approaching extinction event." And I posted that on Facebook this morning at docram.com. That's my daily post on Facebook. I have about 36,000, 37,000 views a week. By the time it's all over, there's a lot of people, and it's climbing because I don't know. I worked for 45 years for the military, connecting dots. I was their whiz kid, and I'm good at connecting dots. And here's the bad news. The bad news is connecting dots is arbitrary. That means it is possible to change a movie. And that's what I taught Shield, how to change the movie, where their mission became their purpose. It's outside space-time. It's why you're here. And once you do that, you can't fail. It's a metaphor.
Okay, Richard, let me ask you this.
It's a way of internal landscape. It's a way you work with yourself in terms of finding, what is that, the sweet spot in the tennis racket.
Okay. Richard.
That was Chevy Chase when he dropped that billiard ball in Caddyshack.
Richard, a question for you. Yep. I just have a question for you because it recently just happened. So I was reading about it the other day. I just need your opinion on it based upon your background. And that question is, Barack Obama just signed the Commercial Space Launch Competitiveness Act.
Oh, got it. Listen, 4/3. Oh, that's true. That's more than 100%, right? 4/3 of the European Union think he's got a screw loose. He's not sane. And the whole electoral college over here is in shambles. Hillary Clinton is a fait accompli. The Republican Party, go reality thing with Donald Trump, get a grip. And Jesse Ventura for vice president, there you go. And that's not happening. And Jeb Bush, right. She is a fait accompli. And what will happen when Hillary Clinton wins it or seals it, it might work that way, she will appoint her husband, Bill Clinton, to head the United Nations. And then now you will have the single most powerful couple in the world working directly for the Bushes. And that's when we're screwed.
Any way out of it?
I'm going to vote for Donald Duck. I don't know how this is all going to work. It is... 3 weeks ago, the Navy intelligence, Navy deployed a new weapon on Reedsport, Oregon, up near Portland on the coast. It was lithium in an aerosol to lock down a city in unrest. It worked. I was up there last week doing panels, lithium panels on people, and everybody up there is toxic. But it worked. Everybody didn't give a shit. They just hunker down and everything was good to go. Just like that. That's another one of your chemtrails that is being run by the United Nations. Ours in Oregon come out of Chilliwack, Canada. And so I don't know what, and that's just the least of it. I have identified 18 different forms of aerosols that are using. The newest one is lithium. Now, the cadmium, mercury, your aluminum, and barium, that's in everything. And you can look at your spit, your saliva. It's white now. It used to not be as white. It's white. And that's the polymer that's in it. And you can actually see it. It'll cluster on the ground when it rains. And sometimes some of the creepy stuff comes out like cobwebs. It's everywhere. They're in your face. They're doing it blatantly now. And your minister, just was it yesterday, came out and said it is a New World Order plot, fake dodge to try to control the world. He said it in public. I posted it on Facebook. Now, I don't know what's happening, but I can tell you that everybody listening to my voice right now is getting it. And now what are you going to do? I don't know. Everybody thinks I've got the answer. I don't. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to change myself. And if I do that rightly, I will have changed the world, because children are watching me. That's how it's in metaphor. And your so-called mini-me and reincarnation. It's a metaphor, and everybody better pay attention, because the physical plane here, where we are right this moment in consciousness, is where we go to be sick spiritually, as a metaphor. I'm a Satsangi. I'm initiated by Sharon Singh. I meditate and I train my mind. I've been doing that since the 70s. And I walk that path trying to do the right thing, and know that just because what I'm doing might not be the same thing you're doing, that's God's will. What you have to, your answers are inside. I am doing an ecumenical thing with a bunch of religious teachers here in the area around children, because while we all disagree on how we're going to die and where we're going to go and children part is the bottom line in all of them. So we call that new movement Common Ground. And it's about teaching children. Okay, I'm working at a place called Pacifica Gardens. Steve Guitar Miller's old retreat here in Oregon, 2,000 acres, has a big sound studio, and it's all on children. They have a thing up there called the Caterpillar. Caterpillar is a big bus that had a bunch of pictures of insects and all creepy shit like that in it. And I went in, cleaned it all out, and put a small portable laboratory in there on how 4-year-olds can test water to see if it's drinkable. And then the 9-year-olds then discover how to identify what's wrong with the water and how to fix it. And then the 13-year-olds teach the adults. That's how the Caterpillar is going to work. And Dr. Lenny Time, who was in What in the World Are They Spraying, some other friends of mine were like going to be the bus drivers driving it around in a little circle where we do a little hokey pokey. The next project will be around the soil and how to test what's in and out of the soil, so you know how to grow what you want to grow for your herbal pharmacy. When the grid collapses, so will most of the pharmaceutical houses. And I don't know where people are going to get their warfarin for blood thinner, but I can certainly tell you that aspen leaf and aspen bark is a natural acetylsalicylic acid, and it has natural buffers in it. And so once you learn how to eat your environment, that's your chief. Now you have a different relationship to yourself. That's where you start. You start by going internal and discovering who you are and what's important to you. That's where the answers are. And so I do it with toys, brain drivers, brain entrainment, biofeedback, whatever. And I'm using didgeridoos. I taught SEALs how to change their perception of time using breath control. And that made their martial arts paranormal. Now, I can tell you that all of this is, anybody can do it. It isn't, I started with SEALs, I started with intuition. I wanted individuals that were intuitive, that, were outside space-time. They were not using their logic brain, they were using their gut. And that is outside space-time. That's the enteric nervous system. And once you tune into that, you're closer to intent. And the problem is, intent is not quite the same as purpose. Purpose is why you're here. Intent is what actually happens at the end of the day, whether you go kicking and screaming or flowing like Buddha. And you have choice. That's what made you God's favorite, the choice part, how you decide you're going to look at your glass of being half empty or half full. And when my half full glass fell over the side, I looked down and lo and behold, that glass was already half fixed. It is a mental way of disciplining your mind to see things certain ways so you have certain doors available. And if you looked at something as half empty, well, look what you just lost. But if you looked at it as half full, well, now you have a mentat that would suggest that everything happens for a reason and everything leads to something better. And you're here to learn those lessons so that you can establish your purpose.
Beyond. 3. I was going to say, it is a much peaceful way to live your life, isn't it?
Yes, it's always the high road. And you have the choice. And so you have that. You know, you want to look at the good part of what's happening, and good luck with that. You know, and the idea that the brain is a four-dimensional hologram of 5 space. That means if you learn how to move to different parts in the brain, you can actually have a different projection and change the movie. That's how it works. In 1972-3, I wrote embryonic holography. That's why I wasn't in Talbot's book. All of my work was classified top secret because I had evolved a concept called the holographic concept of reality, which was distinguished differently than a quantum universe, which is space-time. Space and time are curved. So with those anomalies, I can prove easily that the Earth's flat. That's easy. If space is curved, I can show that it's a flat Earth. But, you know, all of these things are true. And more. Which means that when you do certain beliefs, you have opened certain doors and you have closed others. Like a Christian would, if 2 aliens walked in the door, could the Christian see them? I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't believed it. In the movie What the Bleep, it was the shaman, the guy that's outside the box, that was able to see the ship on the horizon. And the Indians couldn't see it because they had no concept of anything being out there like that. Its imagination is where everything happens. It's on the inside, and it's projected outward, and I'm writing about that right now on the structure of water. Jerry Pollack, you know, the guy that wrote Fourth Phase of Water, Professor Emeritus at University of Washington, anesthesiology. He's my lead. He's the guy that hired me in 1970. I've known Jerry 45 years. I mean, you know, and when I'm a physicist, he's a biophysicist. He's doing structured water. What I'm writing about is how psyche enters into matter. That's chapter 6 in my new book, The Non-Local Mind, Holographic Universe. I have a bunch of books I've got. So, I got another one called Sustainable Lifeboats Within Gardens of Zen. How to kiss your ass goodbye. There's all kinds of ways you can exit here. I know. I'm sorry I tangent so much. These are things that I feel are important concepts for everybody right now to realize. At the end of times, it's epoch time now. Right now, there is a book, if you want to know how some science fiction writers would do it. There's one by Greg Bear called Epoch. That's interesting. The end of days, when the mantle is shifting, 100 miles down, and nothing lives on Earth, aliens show up and take 144,000 of them to witness the death of their mother from space. Avatar. And what happened, that's an interesting metaphor. I don't know how it's all going to play. I can tell you that the temperature right now in the ocean is 2 degrees above what brought on Jurassic and, with the Ice Age, with frozen things inside the mouth, just like the day after tomorrow. It's going to play like that, exactly. And that's what you're seeing now with hail and weirdness over here and strangeness over there and people being killed here and da-da-da-da-da, and it's escalating. And then there will be a superstorm to reboot the ocean currents that have stopped. Gulf streams no longer exist. there you go.
I did ask.
Like in the movie.
I did ask at the start of this interview, Richard, what it was that you wanted to tell us all, and I think you very, very adequately answered that last question. So thank you for that.
Well, I don't know how it's all going to end. I know that we have choices, and there is a movie I saw like 2 weeks before my dad died. He shot himself. He was in pain to the point where the Neptune Club was not moving fast enough for him. He had more Bellinis than I did it. And the movie is called Astral City. It's in Portuguese, so there's English subtitles, whatever. And you can get it on free on Hulu. You do Astral City, Hulu. This is a 2-hour movie of a doctor, medical doctor, watching himself die on an operating table. And at the moment of his death, we've lost him. Battles, we've lost him. What happens next? It's generic. It is a fairly accurate description of how time travel. We go back into the future, etc. Now, there's something that you need to remember here. There's a writer called Zen Gardner, has written about the last great lie. It's a wonderful piece talking about the distinctional difference between the tunnel and all your friends waiting for you and the big light, which is home. And the tunnel is how you got here in the first place by some lesser god. We'll call him Yahweh over Yad He Vahe. How's that work? Because Yahweh had to ask permission, whatever. And that god said, if you come here, physical plane, where we are currently enjoying, anything you possibly imagine is true, and more. And you got it. There it is. Here we are. And so you can change that. Why and what is the big issue of each of us in discovery now. And that's why we're at the end of times, because it's archetypal. And it's a metaphor. I'm a Jungian psychotherapist, imaginal psychologist. I study with James Hillman, and so I work from that end of town in terms of my models. I see holographic in terms of information because space-time is a lesser subset, and I am literally time traveler.
Yeah.
And I am right now, for example, my future is dictating precisely what I'm doing at this moment, and that is literally changing my path. Navy SEALs, when I did it at that moment, was a seal for a jar out of Amherst. And it was a bunch of creepies that wanted me to teach individuals how to be interrogated or interrogate. NLP, biofeedback, controlling autonomic functions for polygraph. And so that's where we started. And today, we now have this mystique of Navy SEAL, and dive buddies and da-da-da-da-da. But back then, it wasn't even like that. It was the past. And the way I try to metaphor it for people like you to get a true grasp is it's like a cavitation ball. That's the research on cold fusion at MIT. A drop of water comes down and hits a pool of water. When it does, a small drop of water pops back up a little bit up. Pops back up out of the air. But actually, in fact, that is not a drop of water. What it is a wave that went inward. The waves that go outward when you hit the pool is the future. And the one that goes inward slaps itself, forms exclusion zone water that traps air. That is your primary wave. And that wave creates the hollow earth, the double ganger, the concept of the white and black hole, Penrose's torus twistor space, and now the new Casimir effect, talking about membranes infusing static energy from one moment to the next. And that is the new directions in energy that Keshe is abroad, working off of some Belgians, who knows, and originals, Benedetti, and some of the others. And I am into Geats forms of cold fusion. They work. The way this one guy put it, he didn't want to come out with free energy because what would happen next is petroleum and petrodollar, or what do they call that new dollar, the carbon dollar? Yeah, that's what they'll call it, carbon. That would shut him down. So what he did is he went out and made a battery charger. The thing is, battery charger could be rated up 5 times and it would run a house. That means if we had a grid down situation, there now is there's a technology that does not require electrical current to run all your products that you've developed. So it doesn't mean you have to go back into the 19th and 17th century lifestyle. I am not sure, but believe there is a breakaway civilization. I think we're on Mars. I've seen evidence from my own research to indicate that. Now there's a new movie. I posted it on about the third alternative. That was a sci-fi that came out in the 70s, and not the same as Colin Wilson, that was the BBC guy, but it's a Wilson. And this book talks about Mars and the breakaway civilization that's colonizing it. I think we're on Mars. I think we're in space. I think that there's some missing money in our treasury. I have no idea, billions of dollars that Rumsfeld somehow called, black money as opposed to white money and lost money. I don't know how that all works. But I do know that somebody built a whole bunch of aircraft to terraform the Earth. They're doing it. Is it practice for trying to terraform Mars? Possibly. I don't know. What I do know is that there's a lot of interest in near orbit, and we have a lot of debris coming down now. So there's a lot up there, and something else is going on, and I don't really know. I'm kidding.
I've heard that before.
I feel that. I think there's more going on here, and it isn't just, it's a relationship. Man is not basically human. He's a habitat. And you've got a hierarchy, just like the solar system and the galaxy that we currently enjoy.
Excellent.
And so there's 1,000 galaxies, a million galaxies. And so we are creating that universe inside us, big bangs with a ATP, which if you look at the geometry of it, is a quark gluon plasma. There it is. Doesn't even exist at this point in time. And so I'm going to say that we are recreating our universes inside us, and it isn't anymore about, like, what you eat, you are what you eat. It's more like whom you feed. And so, and each of us is different. This one's got a little more candida there, and this has got a little bit of H. pylori there. And what's happening now with epigenetics is that we're now realizing that it isn't all about the DNA. There is outside influences that change and restructure the DNA. And I posted a thing on tardigrades, these little worms that are from outer space. That's an interesting post. It was a couple days ago. You'll see it had 28,000 views. A little tardigraph. That's it's got more alien DNA than anything we know of. Man himself has a full genome and blood type that we have no idea where it came from. There's your Enlil, and the ideas of Apollo and discussion of making things different. Man was, if you read the old Bibles, that's an interesting thing. Man is not supposed to be good. He was bad. And what you're trying to do is move from a demon into more of an angel, evolving with dimensional awareness. And as you do that, you will see life all around you already doing it themselves. You're just joining a community.
Wow.
Richard,
it's actually, I can see this. There it is. I can point to it mathematically.
Mm-hmm.
The 8 neurotransmitters we have, the one, the alcohol, marijuana, blah, blah, blah. These are specific geometries in the way information folds down into and out of itself. It's a mathematical universe. And that's what Roger Penrose wrote, Geometric Universe. He was one of my teachers. And this guy that I've just recently interviewed from Belgium has disproved in theory with a new model on holons dealing with membrane space, which is different than quantum foam. And so Penrose talks about torus twistor space, where there are many black holes and the way space is curved, to be distinguished differently from white and black holes of Stephen Hawking. In fact, the two have actually co-authored a book on that very topic. Point, counterpoint. At the end of the book, they come to the same place using different models. It's interesting. I don't know what it all means now. There is a relationship to mind and body. I think the upper mind, brain, the place where we think the soul resides, not really, is there to make all your beliefs true. Now, it's part of the punctuation of structuring the water and how psyche enters matter. And when you get that sense of intentionality to be distinguished different than intent, that is another chapter in my book called The Stanford Argument. And the fact that we now have software that can predict before you know what you're going to do, put a little red dot on your mailbox because we know you're going to do it this way or that way. Now that's the difference between intent and purpose are at this level of awareness. Our current level of awareness is the same. However, there is a difference, and that's where you can beat the software and, have union with self. And once you do that, you are no longer able to be structured cybernetically.
Well, because of that,
I can go into a new area. How about Church of the Virus and at Lucifer.com? How's that one work? The idea that an idea is in itself a virus.
Well,
that's what we call memes and the way you organize information.
Well, this is the thing. You mentioned before about the different neurons and transmitters and things like that. Have you ever heard a situation where, let's say a person was on marijuana or they had done a hard drug, and all of a sudden they did a period where they stopped that and went into meditation. Now, after meditating for a period of time, they went back to a hard drug and they found out it no longer had an effect. Therefore, was it that the meditation that the person was doing allowed their body, allowed their system to go beyond the point where that drug could have an effect?
A hard drug, external drug, is normally a toxin to the body, like lysergic acid, diethylamide. And when you take that external drug, the body freaks out. And what it does is it breaks that down into salts into the urine within 20 minutes. And the next resulting 20 hours of hallucinations is from your own brain chemistry, lysergic acid amide. Now, when that occurs, what you can do is, rather than that, basically jumpstarts the brain in producing lysergic acid amide. Just like there are exercises with dimethyltryptamine, ayahuasca, others, that will uncalcify certain portions of your brain, like your pineal gland and some of the other things that have calcified over because of non-use.
Right.
Now, the chill, when you learn how to generate that with your mind's eye, the chill, you can do that. You can, right now, if you all tried, you can create that chill. Keep working on that, and at some point, you will supersede an ayahuasca event where you no longer need to take Banisteriopsis capeae or some weird creepy drug that is actually a serious toxin. And what you're doing now is releasing your own brain chemistry in a concert. And if you do that with consciousness, that's called syntactic modes of consciousness, where you have total awareness of what you're doing. That is evolution consciousness. That is where you start to use these brain chemistries, and there's 8 of them, that I have identified. I use Leary as a model. It works for me with Fibonacci and some other metaphor I can use, and that's why I choose 7 chords in an octave. That's arbitrary. All my books will be organized with that in mind. So I'll talk about earth, air, fire, and water. Your basic elements that we have classified called memes. This is a physical thing, that's an emotional thing, that's an intellectual thing. What's the difference? A physical thing is an event or a situation. Emotional plane, the above it, EQ, is your relationship to it with more data. And the intellectual is when you moved to Plato and his basic form concept of a chair, as opposed to a couch, as opposed to SETI or whatever. There's different metaphors in that. And then you move to the archetypal plane, where it is a universal cross-cultural thing, and that's only 4 planes up. And there are 8 planes to God in that regard, in the way we use things. The last one, ketamine, is an interesting anesthesia drug that we did studies with Dr. Moore, and I have in my workbook that accompanies the Power Tools book, in the workbook at Chapter 8, Leary's neurologic circuits, the 8 worlds of Timothy Leary. In the last one, ketamine, we're into the out of, that would be where as above, so below, where you see the sun burping a coronal mass ejection that's a perfect DNA. I have a picture of one that the sun did back in 2010. How does that work? That is a physics called cosmobiology that was developed in Yugoslavia with Janov and others, predicting the lunar sex cycle of the woman, and they were able to predict earthquakes using the planet Uranus. Now, everything is in metaphor. The storm on Jupiter has a metaphoric relationship, and this is where astrology and then later astronomy evolved. Just like chemistry came out of alchemy, so now physics will evolve into magic, which is advanced physics with a mystery school, like the Aborigines. They don't need to know how it works to be able to use it. They have a different kind of a relationship to it and their mind's eye. And that's where it all occurs. And as you can touch these different neurotransmitters and release them with consciousness, you can actually play your brain like a musical instrument. And that's how a pre-epoch technology was able to use sound and dance movement, like whirling dervish and ghost dance, to change space-time. There is a level of participation in the use of these brain chemistries that allow you to change the universe, and that's magic.
Hey, Rick.
The art of changing consciousness at will. Once I'm finished with you, I'm going to run. I'm going to go into the woods and do a walkabout. I need to clear my brain once in a while, and I like to get grounded by just physically going into the woods.
That's fantastic.
And Rick,
I am, basically, you're MacGyver. That's what I did for the military, was I know how to live in the woods, and, I'm a little Boy Scout. Talking to you both. I'll catch you.
love you, Rick.
Take care, Rick. Thanks a lot for that. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you bet. Bye-bye.
And that was Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Off for a walk in the woods.
He needs it.
Hopefully we'll get him back, Matt, next week. What do you reckon?
I think that would be an excellent idea because there's just so much information there. We would need at least a couple of weeks just to get through it.
I suggest if you enjoyed what you listened and heard tonight and experienced, tune in for the next couple of weeks, because hopefully we'll get him back over the Christmas break.
And it would be that'll be our Christmas present to the people of Australia, having a person like that with that kind of knowledge and information out over the airwaves.
Until next week, Matt. Just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.